Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'd like to welcome you all to our Shabbat evening services in the Kaufman-Schuckman Chapel congregation, Beth-El. For those of you who are joining us by live stream, we call your attention to the Shabbat virtual resources that you can access at bez613.org. It's wonderful to get together on this Shabbat and to welcome a newish but not so newish face on the Bima. We will introduce our dear colleague in a few moments. I want to allow a little bit of time for people to gather, and I think it's appropriate that we should begin by Shalom Aleichem, welcoming one another with blessings of Shalom. Page 13 in the prayer book.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachi Amlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachi Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Nile Shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachi Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem Shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachi Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We welcome Shabbat with song and we welcome Shabbat with light. Whether you're joining us from your homes or are with us here, please join with the cantor in the blessing of the Shabbat candles, page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של Shabbat.
The meditation in the middle of page 4. Please join me. Almighty God, grant me and all my loved ones a chance truly to rest on this Shabbat. May the light of the candles drive out from among us the spirit of anger, the spirit of harm. Send your blessings to our children, that they may walk in the ways of the Torah, your light. We turn to page 25, and we continue with Psalms from the Kabbalat Shabbat service as we usher in the spirit of Shabbat. Page 25, Psalm 96.
Yallay, lallay, lay, yallay, lallay, lay, yallay, lallay, lay, lallay, yallay, yallay, lallay, lay, yallay, lallay, lay, yallay, lallay, lallay, lay, yallay, lay, 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 lallay, yallay, lay, lallay. Ya lay 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 lay, ya lay lay lay. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo, basru miyom leyom yeshuato. ספרו בגויים כבודו בכל העמים נפלאותיו כי גדול אדוני ומולל מאוד נורא אלוהים יאי כי כל אלוהי העמים אלילים ואדוני שמיים עשה הוד והדר לפניו עוז ותפארת פן מקדשו הבו לאדוני משפחות העמים הבו לאדוני כבוד ועוז הבו לאדוני כבוד שמו שאו מנחה ובואו לקצרותיו יאי לי לי יאלי לי 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 יאלי לי 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 יאלי לי 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 שבת שלום שבת שלום שבת שלום Shabbat Shalom.
And with greetings of Shabbat, we turn to page 49 for verses from the Psalm for Shabbat, the only psalm that is designated in the Bible with the indication a psalm, a song for Shabbat. We continue on page 49 and join with the cantor.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות. עלי אסור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בחינות. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך רענן. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון.
Before we turn to Lahadodi, I'd like to invite you to follow with me the reading on page 733. We come to this Shabbat service well aware of the difficulties, the trials, the anxieties of the week that has passed, of the weeks that have passed. We also come in a spirit of hope, of renewal, and of joy to welcome the day of peace, the day of Shabbat. So on page 733, just follow along with me and join me as you will. We come together on this Shabbat, each bringing to this sanctuary a private world of hopes, of fears, of dreams. Some of us are burdened by anxieties and cares that all but crush our faith in the future. Others have hearts filled with happiness, grateful for the joys of the past week, yet aware that even the most fortunate are vulnerable before the mystery of tomorrow. Every life is unique, a blending of joy and sorrow, of fulfillment and frustration. But beneath our uniqueness, we are all bound together by our common humanity. All of us most deeply yearn for the blessings of freedom, of peace. Each of us seeks the personal liberation of mind that is not enslaved to conventional wisdom, a heart that is able to love without fear, a spirit that cries yes to the universe. And each of us strives too for the inner peace that comes with finding a harmony between what we want out of life and what we can have, between our aspirations and our abilities. This is the Shabbat peace to which we aspire. And we welcome that hope in the words of Lecha Dodi on page 41, 43, and then rising for the last verse on page 47 to welcome Shabbat.
Lecha Dodi likrat kalai halalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabel lai 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 Lecha Dodi likrat kalai halalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabel lai 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 shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad Hishmiyanu el hameyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shemu tiferet ve'elitila Lecha Dodi likrat kala halalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabel lai 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 Lecha Dodi likrat kala halalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabel lai 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 likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor haberacha mirosh mikedem nesucha סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה Lecha Dodi likrat kalai halalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabel lai 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 Lecha Dodi likrat kalai halalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabel lai 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 מקדש מלך ירמלוכה קומיצאים מתוך ההפיכה רב לך שבט בימך הבקר והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה Lecha Dodi likrat kalai halalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabel lai 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 Lecha Dodi likrat kalai halalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabel lai 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 התנערים מעפר קומי לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי על יד בנישי ביתה לחמי קרבה אל נפשי גאלה Lecha Dodi likrat kalai halalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabel lai 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 Lecha Dodi likrat kalai halalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabel lai 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 Bomi v'shalom aterech v'halam גם בשמחה ובצולה תוך אמוני המעשה כולה בואי כלה Lecha Dodi likrat kalai halalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabel lai 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 Lecha Dodi likrat kalai halalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabel lai.
While we are yet standing, and we're about to sing the words of Hine Matov, how good, how pleasant it is to come together. I'd like to once again introduce our not-so-new guest, not-so-new Rabbi Hal Shevitz. Many of you, whether with us here tonight or joining us by live stream, will recognize his face. He has a little bit of a different hairstyle from when he was first with us 6 years ago. Rabbi Hal Shevitz was our assistant rabbi from 2013 to 2016. And then he went on for 6 years to cultivate his rabbinate, to strengthen a congregation on his own. And we are delighted to have him back at Beth-El, the family where he began his service to the Jewish people as a rabbi. I have asked Rabbi Hal to share with us a few words a little bit later in the service, but this is a good moment to sing Hine Matov Umanaim as we welcome Rabbi Hal and his wonderful family, wife Jenna, beautiful children, Naomi and Ariel. I met Ariel today as she was leaving the ECC program, and she wanted to know who was the boss of the synagogue. And I said, here he is.
We all know it's Sherry.
The bishop.
That's right.
So also with greetings all the way to Baltimore, who are joining us by live stream, Rabbi Hal's parents, Pammy and Harvey Shevitz, who had been so much a part of the family of the synagogue and whom we look forward to welcoming back to Indianapolis. Hinei matov u'manayim, how good, how pleasant it is to come together as a family in Shabbat celebration and to welcome Rabbi Hal Shevitz.
הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
And now we turn to the boss of the services to call us together in prayer with the Baruch Hu, page 57.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Amen. You may be seated. We continue with the first blessing of Ma'ariv on page 60. We read together in the English. Praised are you, God, ruler of the universe, who has ordained the rhythm of life. The day with its light calls to activity and exertion. But when the day wanes, when with the setting of the sun colors fade, we cease from our labors and welcome the tranquility of night. The subdued light of the moon and stars, the darkness and stillness about us invite rest and repose. Trustfully we yield to the quiet of sleep, for we know that while we are unaware of what goes on within and around us, our powers of body and mind are renewed. Therefore at this evening hour we seek composure of spirit. We give thanks for the day and its tasks, for the night and its rest. Praised are you, God, who brings on the evening.
אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Shemo.
המעריב הרבים.
Amen. As we've given thanks for the universal gifts of the changing of times and seasons, we give thanks for the unique gift of Torah, page 63. Ahavat Olam.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו וקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך לא תסור ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני
ברוך שמו
אוהב עמו ישראל.
Amen. You rise for Shema, page 65.
שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך. ושיננתם בבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשופך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך. והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
You may be seated. And as we continue on page 81, we sing the song of freedom that Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang as they crossed the sea to freedom.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, מלכותך ראו בניך. בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים זלי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו ירחק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Amen. Help us to lie down, dear one, our God, in peace, and let us rise again, our sovereign to life. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. And as we call upon the divine source of protection, our thoughts turn to those who are in need of healing, whether that is body, spirit, or emotion. We continue with our prayer for healing.
מי שברך אבותינו מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing and let us say, Amen.
We think of the
Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We think of the following members of our community and loved ones: Shirley Steinman, Larry Baker, Brian Donor, Amy Maurer Martin, Jane Bashir, Aaron Greenwald, Ron Safran, Ariel Shoshana Esther Zelda, Andrew Whitson, Dan Stillerman, Freda Burns, Herb Heller, Dr. Martin Tamler, Sandra Siegel, Freddie Cassif, Carol Tandy, Carl Goodfellow, Bob Borns, Chuck Bader, Elliot Nelson, Dee Schwartz, Lila Miller, Ron Elberger, Bob Diskin, Sarah Bat Miriam, Harvey Shapiro, Yonatan Ben Meir, Martin Faust, Detra Mills, Keith Matters, Lynn Mata, Alan Cohen, Paul Siegel, Maddox Thomas. We add to those names you are thinking of, that you wish healing upon this evening. You may express those names as my glance passes yours. Thank you. And we add to those all in our community and beyond who are coping with the consequences of the COVID virus and its various manifestations and mutations. Amen. We continue on page 85. As we sing Vishamru, words affirming the covenant between Israel and God.
Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
So before we proceed with Chatzi Kaddish and our Amidah, I'd just like to offer a couple of words, as Rabbi Dennis alluded to a moment ago. Very, very surreal. Very surreal. It's really wonderful to be back. Still taking it all in. There was a moment at the beginning of the service where I'm just sitting on the bima here and waiting, as things are beginning. And I've thought about this for a while cognitively. It's like, I'm going to be back on the bima hearing Rabbi Dennis speak and Cantor Melissa chant. And cognitively, like I know that, but I didn't know what I was going to feel like at that moment. And so I just, when Rabbi Dennis started introducing the service and Cantor Melissa began with Shalom Aleichem, I was just awash with emotion. It was really, really wonderful to hear you speak and hear you sing again. Just brought back lots of wonderful memories and the opportunity to hopefully create lots of new ones. As you know, I was I departed in 2016 after my rookie contract, and went on to serve as the sole spiritual leader of Congregation Or Atid in Henrico, Virginia, which is a suburb of Richmond. It was a really wonderful experience with all the joys and challenges of being a congregational rabbi, especially when you're the only full-time professional staff there. There's lots of great memories and challenges, as we all know. The last couple of years have been especially difficult, and especially difficult when you have to relearn how to do your job, and one that involves interacting with people, and you're the only rabbi. So it's right there. There was a lot of great relationships that I formed, and through all that, I still kept in touch with a lot of people here. I remember early on in the pandemic, Dennis gave me a call, and we touched base, and Melissa and I text every now and again. If I can tell a funny story that I told the other day, about 4 years ago, Cantor Melissa sent me a text message, and she's like, "I've got huge news." I'm like, "What's the huge news?" And I text back, "Are you pregnant?" It's like, "No, it's the BJE's closing." I'm like, "Oh, okay." That was it. It was, we as I mentioned, we kept those relationships up, and when this opportunity arose, it just all seemed to fit into place. I will have a lot more to say about this, because I've already got a sermon written for Yom Kippur, so it's already in there. Rabbis are writing sermons all year long for the high holidays, and so I've got this one cooking in my brain. I need to put it to paper when it gets closer. But it's really wonderful to be back. It's especially after what I learned here and what I've developed on my own in my own rabbinate, and to bring all of that to bear in this new role. I'm excited and looking forward to getting to know this congregation again. They say you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. Prove that wrong. But it's as I said, it's wonderful to be back on this bima with all the wonderful memories that come with that. And with that, I invite everyone to please rise as we continue with the Chatzi Kaddish on page 87 and the silent Amidah to follow, beginning on page 91 through 107, as we use our traditional words of prayer and the prayers of our own heart. Page 87 for Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה
אמן.
בעלמא דברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי
בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה בנחמתה דאמירה בעמה ואמרו אמן. Page 91 through 107 for the silent Amidah.
עושה שלום במרומיו,
עושה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Please be seated. After the Amidah, there is a lovely prayer on page 112, which I ask you to read with me. It is about the peace and the joy and the fulfillment of Shabbat, as you will see if you're not already familiar with it. Our God, our ancients' God, take pleasure in our rest. Make us holy through your mitzvot. Make us a part of Torah. Let us enjoy the good things of your world and rejoice in all your saving acts. Refine our hearts to serve you honestly. Help us to perpetuate with love and joy your holy Shabbat. Let all Israel and all who treat your name as holy rest upon this day. Blessed are you, beloved one, source of the holiness of Shabbat. So Shabbat is a day of rest and a day of joy, and we certainly have the joy of welcoming Rabbi Hal back to the congregation and his second chance to make a first impression. We will hear more from Rabbi Hal even before the High Holy Days. I'd like to remind you all that August 5th is being designated as a kind of a welcome back Shabbat, and we look forward to seeing you, weather permitting. We'll have a lovely outdoor Shabbat, multi-generational Shabbat celebration. And then Selichot is the time when we regather as a congregation, and we will then formally welcome and reintroduce Rabbi Hal and Jenna to the congregation. Shabbat is about peace, but the Torah portion for this Shabbat is all about strife. It's a very contentious Torah portion. It's entitled Chukat, which means the law. And the law there refers to a very strange, obscure ritual that even the rabbis in the days of the Talmud gave up on trying to understand. And they just said, well, it's a chok, it's a law. We don't have to understand it, just do it. It's called the ritual of the red heifer. But then the Torah unfolds and we come to a pattern in the book of Numbers, and that is complaint. And at a place called Meribah, or called so because of the event that takes place there, a sad development takes place. Miriam had just died, and the people were thirsty. Tradition tells us that upon the death of Miriam, the well of water that would accompany the Israelites through the desert dried out, and there was no water. And the people complained to Moses and to Aaron. And Moses was just in the midst of his grief for Miriam, and he got very, very upset at the people. Moses was told by God, speak to the rock, and it'll give you water. You know, rocks are aquifers. Water comes from rocks. This is not just kind of an odd story. If you go to the deserts, if you go to Sinai, you will see that water oozes from certain rocks coming from the earth. So just speak to the rock, it'll give you water. But Moses is very upset at the people. He is still grieving for Miriam, and he doesn't speak to the rock. He strikes the rock. He strikes it twice, as he would probably like to strike the people who were complaining against this. Wham, wham. And the place is called the place of Meribah, the place of strife, the place of rebelliousness. And that's what the book of Numbers is. Last week we had the story of Korach, the revolt against Moses. In the weeks ahead we will have other episodes. People's constant rebelliousness and discontent. There was nostalgia about the past, which was idealized. People begin to think of the slavery in Egypt as being better than the trials and tribulations of freedom in the desert. And there is anxiety about the future, and they want a fix now. That's part of the history of peoples. We have to be very careful not to deify the past nor to denigrate it. We have to neither despair of the future nor think of it as utopia. We have to live in the day-to-day, and we are now living in the midst of a day-to-day in our country. We are facing unique, difficult social, legal adjustments. And we can't imagine times just like these, but there have been difficult times. And we need to stay the course, and we need to move forward. We have resources that can help us in reshaping, re-strengthening our nation and attending to the needs of democracy. If the Torah is difficult, the Haftorah is equally or more so. It's the story of one of the great heroes of ancient Israel. His name was Jephthah. Tries to do battle for the Israelites against the Amorites, the Ammonites. And he promises God that if he is successful in the battle, when he comes on, he will sacrifice the first thing that he sees coming out from into his field. And upon his return, he sees his daughter walking out. And he is bound by his vow. Ancient times, different practices. Today we have people who are willing to sacrifice our daughters, our future mothers, to a pietistic ideal that many of us cannot quite grasp. So these are the concerns, and many others that move us at this time. Shootings in Highland Park. One of the persons that died was very dear to some of the people in our own congregation. Been exchanging emails and Facebook contacts with colleagues about the tragic events. And so perhaps we are in the days of the book of Numbers, times of upheaval, times of trial, times of tribulation. But eventually the people got to the promised land. And then they faced other troubles. But that's, I guess, how it works in the life of people and in the life of nations. Democracy, America, are works in progress. And we are part of the solution. So, in keeping with that hope, let us sing about Miriam. Miriam's song. In the back of the Shabbat leaflet, you will find the words.
And the women dancing with the timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. When Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise and might. We've just lived through a miracle, we're going to dance tonight. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women dance and dance the whole night long. Miriam and the women dance and dance the whole night long.
Let us sing the Kiddush. I ask you to rise, and I'm going to invite Rabbi Hal Shevitz to lead us in the Kiddush, and you may follow on page 119.
I've done this a million times, but I never memorize it. I always feel like I'm going to forget a word. So I always got to have this here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabar kodsho b'ahava uvratzon yinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reshit Ki hu yom techila l'mikrae kodesh zecher l'tziyah Mitzrayim Ki banu bacharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol amim v'shabar kodshecha v'yava uvratzon Hinchatanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat
Amen.
L'chaim.
Oh, it's a good stuff.
We do Hamotzi now, Kenton?
Yes.
Okay, do Hamotzi.
I do this one too. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Teabon.
Plain road, delicious.
I'd like to invite you to remain standing, and we continue on page 121. Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורר עלינו ככל העולם, ואנחנו גוררים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא,
שהוא נוטה שמיים.
שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומשה ויקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגודי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו הוד אמת מלכנו ופסולתו ככתוב בתורתו. מתחת אין עוד כנקווה לך אדוני אלוהינו ורשבנו ושכה. ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו ושמו
turn to page 131 to the Mourner's Kaddish. As we recite the Kaddish, we affirm our awareness of holiness in our lives and recognize that much of our experience of God's goodness, grace, and love comes to us through those whose lives have touched our own. On this Shabbat, we remember loved ones who have died in recent days and weeks: Larry Harrison, Barbara L. Mills. I add the name of Jackie Sunheim, the dear friend of Serene Blatt, who died during the tragic events in Highland Park. And we keep in our hearts those others who perished at that time. We keep in our hearts those for whom we mourn, in our families, in our personal lives, and all those the anniversary of whose death occurred during the past week. In loving testimony to the faith that links the generations, those who mourn and all who remember, sanctify God's name in the words of the Kaddish. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rava. Be'olma divra kireute ve'yamlich malchute. Bechayekon ve'yomechon uvechaye dechol Beit Israel. Ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imeru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevarach le'alam uleolmei olmaya. Yitbarach ve'ishtabach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitroman ve'yitnaseh ve'yithadar ve'yit'aleh ve'yithalal shemei dekudsha berichu le'ela min kol birchata ve'shirata tushbechata ve'nechemata da amiran be'alma ve'imru. Amen. Yehei shlamar rabba min shemaya ve'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Israel ve'imru. Amen. Ose shalom b'imromav u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru. Amen. May God, the source of peace, grant comfort to all who are bereaved, peace to Israel, to America, and to the world. And let us say Amen. Please be seated. I'd like to thank Jennifer Hodes of our staff for serving as our welcoming presence tonight, and Tori Irving, who is our connector to the world out there on Shabbat through our live stream. And I can see Tori from the back here, and she fully participates in the flow of the service as the service moves along. I'd like to welcome you all. Announcements are in the back of your Shabbat leaflet. You can take a look. I will mention that tomorrow afternoon, for those of you who are interested and capable, there will be a gathering at Military Park as a demonstration in support of reproductive rights. That'll begin at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I think we have two guests in the congregation. Are you visiting with us?
Yes.
Would you introduce yourselves?
My name is Don Jacobson. I'm from Kiryat Hakerim in Carmel, Israel.
Oh,
And my son Noah, he lives in Indianapolis. Yeah.
welcome Noam, and welcome Dan, did you say? Don. Nice to have you with us. Are you visiting for an extended period or just staying a few days with Noam?
Yeah,
And what do you do in Indianapolis, Noam?
I'm a programmer, so
Uh-huh. By programmer, we mean these days computer-related stuff, right?
programming computer, yeah.
Not like festivals programming and,
He knows about the QR code, Rabbi.
you know about the QR code? I saw this thing in the back of our Shabbat announcement leaflet last week, and I said, what, do we have a new logo? I was trying to make it out. Yeah. Well, welcome to Indianapolis. Come and visit anytime, and Shabbat Shalom, Drishat Shalom to all our friends and family in Israel. Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Just today, I mailed a couple of books and some photos to a friend in Israel with whom I reconnected recently. She was a high school classmate of mine, and I hadn't seen her since 1965. And somehow we reconnected. She sent me a book that she had written. I sent her a couple of publications of ours. To send a book, to send something to Israel from the post office, took me half an hour. First, because there were a lot of people, but secondly, because you have to fill forms for customs declarations. And I said, there's 2 books and 2 notes in there. You have to list it all. I said, this is worse than I remember Israeli bureaucracy when I was a student at the Hebrew University. But hopefully, it's on its way. If I knew you were going to be here, I would have given it to you to take. Thank you very much. Okay, any other good words? We're going to sing then. What are we going to sing, Kenta? Ushaftem Mayim. Oh, the water.
And it rained today, finally.
Yeah, there's a particular song about this, you know? Umoshe hika etzur, amateika al sela. Bet you know that song.
No, he doesn't know that one.
That is an old Israeli song.
I bet you he knows the one that I'm going to sing.
No, never heard that song? Oh my gosh.
Page
Modern generation of Israelis.
555. He knows the song I'm going to sing though.
Let's sing it.
הושבתם מים בששון ממענה הישועה, הושבתם מים בששון ממענה הישועה,
מים, 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 לא מים בששון,
מים, 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 מים בששון, היי, 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 מים, 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 מים בששון, מים, 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 מים בששון, הושבתם מים בששון ממענה הישועה, הושבתם מים בששון ממענה הישועה, מים, 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 מים בששון, מים, 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 מים בששון, היי, 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 היי,
מים, 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 מים,
מים בששון, מים, 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 מים בששון. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thanks for joining us. Shabbat Shalom. Yeah, this we don't need. We'll leave this here for tomorrow. Shukran.
So, yeah. All right.
Hey, perhaps you are thinking tonight because you took anything that might order some food on your way. That's what they do around. If you read it, then it's good. Huh? If you read it, you get it.
How do we get a QR code? So what does it go to?
Takes you to any restaurant.
Oh, Jack's